This week's episode of Couch Potatoes Unite! Is sponsored by Found Penny Studio. Found Penny Studio is exclusively fulfilling our Patreon Tier 3 merchandise perk by doing what they do best, creating to celebrate everyday moments like your favorite TV series. Check out Found Penny Studio's creations at foundpennystudio.com and find Couch Potatoes Unite on Patreon at www.patreon.com/couchpotatoesunite.
You say you want to watch a drama. You say you want to watch a comedy. Well, you can watch it with your mama. Or you can watch it with your daddy.
You'll even sit and watch it with your middle schooler. So you can come and talk around a water cooler. We're watching all day and all night.
Couch Potatoes Unite.
Whoa, whoa.
Couch Potatoes Unite.
Whoa, whoa. Couch Potatoes Unite.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the podcast entitled Couch Potatoes Unite! Which is based on a blog of the same name because a good name can be one's ticket to the stars, even if it's slow to start. That joke is bound to land in a minute, possibly in the Pacific Ocean, but that's for you to judge. I am the blogger in question and the self-styled cheap couch potato. My name is Kylie and I love TV. If you feel the same, keep listening and or checking out our website, couchpotatoesunite.wordpress.com, as you're bound to find some common ground or something you like. For Couch Potatoes Unite, we're all about the wonders and unique long-form storytelling of the small screen. CPU, ! Hopes you've been following releases of brand new episodes of the podcast on Wednesdays, as well as new blog entries on some Tuesdays. And as always, we have several more new episodes on the way. Because the panels and I live lives behind our podcast, the episodes are published once per week. Subscribe to the website or podcast via iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, CastBox, Amazon Music, basically wherever you get your podcasts, to stay on top of brand new episodes. Episodes already published discuss a variety of shows around the water cooler, including but not limited to Stranger Things, iZombie, The Good Place, Game of Thrones, American Horror Story, Grace and Frankie, Mr. Robot, Charmed, Riverdale, This Is Us, and the DCTU or Arrowverse or CWverse, whatever they're going by, on the CW. Plus, new episodes are in the works, including revisits for Doctor Who, Westworld, Fuller House, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, 13 Reasons Why, Will and Grace, Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., The 100, The Crown, Supernatural, Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. The Outlander panel will digest Season 5 of the sweeping romantic epic, and the Star Trek 50 Plus series will return to cover the final season of The Next Generation. We'll be launching new panels covering Big Little Lies, The Good Doctor, Call the Midwife, The Animaniacs, Killing Eve, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, American Gods, Grey's Anatomy, and Cobra Kai. And because we look back at shows now past, we'll travel through time and experience all sorts of identities with Quantum Leap. We'll thank the Golden Girls for being friends. We'll cry Bazinga for Big Bang Theory. We'll dive deep into the fantasy world of The Magicians. We'll navigate the witty political satire of Parks and Recreation, and we'll become psychos for Psych. By the way, did you know that CPU also from time to time goes live? We've been live from bunkers, comedy shows, Comic-Cons, and game stores, plus we're planning more live appearances and other cool stuff, including in these semi-quarantine times. So make sure you like or follow us at our Facebook page, our Twitter at CPU Podcast, our Instagram at Couch Potatoes Unite, or subscribe to the website, our YouTube channel, our Apple iTunes channel, our Stitcher Radio channel, or find us on Google Podcasts, Spotify, CastBox, iHeartRadio, and Amazon Music. Plus, brand new for 2021, you can subscribe to us via Patreon. In an effort to get fancier, to upgrade some of our stuff, to build some capacity, Couch Potatoes Unite is on Patreon to provide the opportunity to subscribe for perks, including member-exclusive email and Discord access, bonus content, TV-themed merch, and the ability to join CPU for occasional watch parties, and in so doing, possibly to place priority requests for shows that we cover. If any of this sounds like fun to you, head on over to Patreon or download the app and search for our name, Couch Potatoes Unite. Don't forget the ! In the meantime, if you don't hear a show in this podcast format, fellow panelists and I still write reviews, and we always seek new panelists. So if you have any interest in joining the discussion, say hello by finding us at any of those outlets I've mentioned. At the very least, stop by and leave us a thumbs up, comment, or review. We like feedback, not the kind of feedback the Krill or the Kalon offer, though. There are several options for diplomacy that you can sort of use before reaching that level of hard-hitting feedback. We're part of a planetary union, after all. Seriously? Today, we're around the water cooler and taking a first look at a science fiction comedy drama that started on Fox, but will be moving to Hulu for its upcoming third season, the production of which was delayed by effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. The series is The Orville, and it's a series that was popularly requested for discussion by a combination of seasoned and unpeeled couch potatoes alike. TV fans who might be of a certain predilection and fans of other properties which The Orville both parodies and to which the series pays heavy homage. As we start this new ongoing panel, today's episode covers both seasons 1 and 2, and if you're not already aware, you should know that from time to time your chief couch potato and main moderator, me, needs a break, particularly when I think others are more passionate about the show we're discussing in the moment. Case in point, today's episode, which I'm not here to moderate, rather frequent panelist Nick returns to the moderating microphone for this series. He's our second most involved panelist and our most involved moderator, other than me. In this episode, Nick is joined by 3 of our occasional to frequent panelists, 2 brand new panelists, and of course me, kicking back as a panelist myself. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome back Nick to the moderating microphone. Take it away, Nick.
Thank you, Kylie. That is right. I do love to moderate when it is real nerdy. So that's why we're here tonight to discuss The Orville. The show is an American science fiction comedy drama television series created by and starring Seth MacFarlane as series protagonist Ed Mercer, an officer in the Planetary Union's line of exploratory space vessels set in the 25th century. The Orville is a joint production by Fuzzy Door Productions and what was once 20th Century Fox Television, now known as 20th Television. The show will be following the crew of the USS Orville on their episodic adventures. And we will be discussing both the first 2 seasons tonight. I just want to welcome the panel. We've got Spencer, Jared, Alex, Ryan, Sarah, and Kylie. Are you ready to get the ball rolling?
We are.
Indeed.
All right, perfect. So, first, I'm going to need you each to identify yourself by first name and tell us how you came to watch The Orville, what made you start watching, how did you find out about it, and what kept you watching. Who would like to go first?
This is Spencer.
Hi, Spencer.
Hi, Spencer.
Hey, everybody. And I actually saw, I think, just an ad for The Orville, and I'm kind of a fan of Seth MacFarlane most of the time, and like sci-fi, so I watched the show and instantly liked it.
Awesome. Short and sweet. Anyone want to go next?
I'm Ryan.
Hi, Ryan.
Hello, everybody. So I saw the ads for The Orville on TV, but I ended up missing the pilot and went, well, with TV these days, I don't know if I can necessarily catch up. So I didn't watch any of it, but then stumbled across the next to last episode of season 2 when it aired, right as it was starting to come on. And so I went, okay, well, I'll watch it and give it a shot. And I'm already a huge fan of Star Trek, and the parallels hooked me immediately. The storytelling hooked me right at the same time. And I went, okay, I need to go back and I need to catch up on this. I need to go back and watch it. And I found it on Hulu and basically just binge watched it down from there.
Excellent. Thanks, Ryan.
Ryan is one of our brand new panelists, Nick.
Oh, is there also any dynamics that need explaining?
Well, let's introduce Ryan's partner in crime before we do
Yes.
the dynamics.
I jumped the gun.
Yeah, I was gonna go next anyway. Hi, I'm Alex.
Hi, Alex.
Hi, Alex.
Hey, Alex.
Okay, so I actually came to know about the Orville through Ryan. Big surprise. And he really he convinced me to watch it. And I'm also a really big fan of Seth MacFarlane, and I also really love sci-fi, so I figured I would like it. The thing is that I'm not really a big Star Trek fan because I think it's super dry, so that's kind of a difference. I figured that I would love this because it's Seth MacFarlane, and I felt like he would put a lot more of the humor into it and less dryness. So...
Welcome, Alex, our other new panelist. And since Nick I'll just help you here. He hinted at dynamics. Ryan and Alex, we like to establish our dynamics because there might be a little bit more disagreement in certain units. So would you like to explain your dynamics?
They're together. They don't understand.
That works.
Okay.
Wait, what? Did she mean dynamics like we're together? What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes. That's why we were sharing a screen.
Okay, welcome.
The dynamics come into play more when it's Kylie's relatives, I guess. So we feel
Yeah, we have a standard disclaimer on all our DCTUs because we have Kylie, Kyle, Hillary, and with them all being related, we have to have a hashtag disclaimer.
So Nick says this, but he has a dynamic on this panel too.
Nick's wife, who is me, Sarah,
Hi, Sarah,
and Nick
Nick's wife.
never disagree. We are always in
Well, that's not
complete.
I know. If anyone's listened to this podcast, they know that's not true.
But usually on the podcast, I think we agree mostly on the shows that we watch, is what I'm going to say. I started watching this show because Nick told me that it was a brand new show coming out and asked me if I thought I would like it. And I said I thought I would. I am not a fan of any of Seth MacFarlane's cartoons because I think they're rude. And I don't like rude babies. But I don't mind the one with the weird alien guy. I don't know. That one.
American Dad.
Yeah, American Dad.
Roger.
That one is fine sometimes. But I do think he's a very talented person. But it's not my cup of tea to watch those sorts of things. But I do love Star Trek, as we all know. So I thought I would like it. And I kept watching it because, again, I am married to Nick. And he is a completionist. So here we are.
Welcome
Thanks,
back,
Sarah.
Sarah. She said it's happy. It's good to be here. Didn't you say
It's
it?
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, at least Spencer already went, so it's just me now.
Before
All right,
me
I
and Nick,
am-
but yeah.
Okay, I'm Jared.
Hi, Jared.
Hey, everybody. I am a busy, happy, and blessed father who is a little bit overly obsessed with television shows and love TV in general in terms of movies and TV shows. But anyway, in terms of the Orville, I remember when it first started getting advertised in commercials, there were a number of one-liners that were hilarious. I'm a lover of comedy, I'm a lover of drama, I'm a lover of sci-fi, and I'm a lover of Star Trek. So I said, let's give it a try. But I struggle with combinations. So since this is a combination, it was an interesting one for me. But yeah, I loved what I saw in the commercials. And I said, I want to give this a try. And I started it, and it wasn't exactly what I was expecting, but I really enjoyed it, and I just kept watching it, and now I don't want to miss an episode. So that is moi.
Welcome back, Jared. And I guess I'll go before Nick, keeping the traditions. Okay. Well, I'm Kylie, which we've established in the intro, and I will be serving as a panelist today. I learned about the Orville because if you know me, or you follow the blog, or you follow the podcast, or you know that I have an unfortunate television addiction myself, you know that I look to see, both for the podcast and for my own notification, what might be coming out in any given TV season. And so I was aware that the Orville was coming and had a pretty good idea that I would be watching it. I am a huge Trekker. I co-moderate, because we're all going to be moderating it, but certainly currently moderating the Star Trek 50 Plus series, and generally a sci-fi lover as well. I like Seth MacFarlane. I think there are bigger fans of Seth MacFarlane out in the world and on this panel. I have watched Family Guy, but not like constantly, and I have watched American Dad, and I have watched The Cleveland Show, but I don't need to watch it. I really liked the Star Wars Family Guy special. We'll get into that maybe some other day. So I just figured it was going to be a natural fit, not only for my own preferences, but I just knew a whole bunch of us would probably want to watch it, and the proof is right here today. I kept watching it. Fortunately, I'm going to have a little bit of a qualified answer when we talk about stuff in the minute, but it got progressively better for me as it went. I think the writing is very good, and Seth MacFarlane, I'm having complicated feelings about him. Romantic lead, what? But apparently he can do it. So I'm very excited to talk about it. And that's how I heard about the Orville.
Well, thanks, Kylie. And as you all already know, I'm Nick, and I like nerdy things. So when I saw Seth MacFarlane doing a sci-fi show, and I knew I had to watch it, I was also at the right age to really enjoy Family Guy when it came out. I was upset when it was canceled. I was happy when it was back. I was upset when it was canceled again. I was happy when it came back again. So his sense of humor really hit the right spot. That tone hit the right timing for just a young college kid. But then Seth MacFarlane has this appreciation for classic Hollywood, musicals, sci-fi that when you pair it with his sense of humor, it just seems like insanity. But when get some of the references, I mean, when you reenact famous scenes from MASH in your episodes, it's just the sweet spot for me. He even has an episode of Family Guy where the whole cast of Next Gen comes on, and he kills Denise Crosby off after, I think, one line. So this was just made basically for me and people who like the same things as I do. So I am just going to keep on watching it whenever they finally bring it back, because I really enjoy it. And I enjoyed it for the get-go, but I do agree that it kept getting better, which we will talk about in greater detail after we get through 2 more fun bits of business. So now we're going to go around and rate your interest in the show using the CBU standard character descriptions. So, did you love this show? It's the show you've been waiting for. In fact, you have a plush Orville on your desk because you admire it as much as Captain Ed Mercer admires Kermit the Frog. Do you really like the show, even though it isn't perfect? However, when it does wander off course, you find yourself spending time with other shows or even a certain blue alien like Commander Kelly Grayson. Is your interest in the show more out of curiosity? You find yourself watching it because you feel it needs your viewership in order to find its footing, just like Dr. Claire Finn requests her transfers based on where she feels he's needed. Or you watch the show for the comedic elements. In fact, you find the show so funny, you not only want to give the show a hand, but also a leg, like Lieutenant Gordon Malloy. Do you find the show interesting? You particularly enjoy the sci-fi elements, like the space battles and fight scenes. At the very least, it is something to watch while you are either incubating your egg or enjoying a delicious napkin, glass, or succulent, like Lieutenant Commander Bortis. Do you think the show is fine? You have a secret ambition to watch something better, but you rather keep things simple, especially since you're able to just relax and enjoy a soda while watching, like Lieutenant John Lamar? Or did you start watching the show and enjoy it for a time, but found that there was more important shows to spend your time with, like Lieutenant Alara Katan? Did you come to the show late in its run and are still trying to figure it out and see if you like it or not, like Lieutenant Tala Kylie? Or you think this show is inferior, it serves no logical purpose, you have gathered enough data on these primitive examples of entertainment and have removed the experiences from your memory files because you are Isaac. All right, who wants to pick their character description first?
I wanted to be that blob guy, though. You didn't put him.
Yaphet.
Yeah.
Voiced by Norm MacDonald.
Yes, I know. I loved it. I will say I am Lieutenant Kelly Grayson.
Lieutenant, not Commander.
Whatever. Her in the past, I liked that, so I'll be that then. And I like things that are blue. So,
Nick, be forewarned.
Okay.
You need me to say more, or are you good?
No, I think we're good. Next.
I would say I'm a cross between, this is Jared, between Captain Ed Mercer and Kelly. So I would say I love the show, not as much as I love my wife, but as much as I would love my brother. So it's kind of I don't even have a love-hate. It's just more of I do want to watch every episode. I don't really find myself watching another show, but I love it, but not so much that I would have a conniption if I missed an episode. And I do love Kermit the Frog. I really know how much Ed Mercer loves Kermit the Frog, but I do love Kermit the Frog.
All right, perfect.
I would say I'm a cross between Ed and Gordy. I really do love the show, and I love the humor in the show. I think that, for me, that's what this show has that something it's parodying did not. And that's what I really like about it.
All right, great. Thanks, Spencer.
It's Ryan. I guess since we're allowed to cross characters, I would
Sarah
say
will
that...
judge you, but you can do it.
Everyone is.
Okay.
I'm not moderating.
That's right.
I absolutely love this show. I would consider myself an Ed Mercer, not just for the storytelling elements and the humor and the sci-fi, which gives me a little touch of Lieutenant Commander Bortis. I thought some of the battle scenes were just absolutely spectacular, especially for a television show. I enjoy everything about it, and me being a musician, I very much enjoy the music in it as well, really, and the music has really drawn me to it, to the point where, as a fan not only of the music but of marching band and all of that, because that is my career, I actually took it upon myself and wrote a marching band arrangement of the Orville theme to be played at some point by somebody once I can get the copyright licensing and all of that figured out.
Wow.
That's how much I like the show.
You look like one of my band directors when I was in high school. I
get that.
He just looks like a band director.
I miss
That's
band
awesome.
really bad. I miss band orchestra.
I hope we hear it one day or see it. Maybe you'll be part of a halftime show somewhere along.
That'd be great. I'd love to someday get it performed. I think it's a fantastic TV show theme. It's very short.
I love it.
I wish there was more of it, but in this time where we have to keep things trimmed down, especially with theme songs and whatnot, I think it's perfect for what it is.
So now that we're doing the combinations, I'll probably do that too, but I absolutely love the show. Like, I mean, I'm not obsessed with it, but I love it. I think it's amazing. I think it's great. I'd probably half myself with maybe Bortus over the humor, which was Gordon, because, I don't know, I just love the storylines. Like, some of those storylines just really hooked me in, and there's some, like, that I really wish they would, expand on those storylines a bit, or do, like, a spin-off on some of those storylines, because some of them are just so good, I want to hear more about it. So I just love the show a lot.
I'm going to pick two. Sorry, Sarah. Whatever, I produce this. For the first season, I probably would be Lieutenant Lamar. It was fine. And maybe there was something better out there, I kind of thought. I enjoyed it, but it was fine enough to drink a soda too, sure. I agree with that description. In the second season, I probably would be an Ed. I don't have a plush Orville. I wish I had a plush Kermit the Frog, because I love Kermit the Frog too. But the show makes such a dramatic improvement in the second season that by the end of it, I was hooked on the show. So that's where I would be. What does the monkey mean?
It means Eli slept in our bed last night, and I just reached down and found it.
Well, the monkey is not Kermit the Frog.
I do have a Fozzie somewhere, but I don't have a Kermit. Sorry.
All right, fine.
What? All right, thanks, Kylie. Thanks, panel. My character is Ed Mercer. I really, really like this show. Like I already said at the top, it blends a little bit of everything that I was kind of looking for in a comedy-type sci-fi show. Especially, they've been teasing a Galaxy Quest TV show, and this kind of hit that sweet spot for me, too. So the last little thing we have to get on record before we really dive into the season discussions is when the first time we started talking about a show, we'd like to get your star rating on record. So, again, we're going to go around, and you're going to tell us if this is a 5-star, holy smokes, I have to watch everything show, or is it 4 stars? It certainly seems intriguing. I'm going to keep watching, but I see possible pitfalls in the premise. A 3-star, I will give it one more try come the next season. There are things I like and things I don't. We'll see which things are allowed to flourish. 2-star, I only watch part of some of the episodes. Chances are I'm mainly bored, but there is some intrigue or fascination that could hold it together, no matter how unlikely, but I can't conceive myself to keep watching. Or is this 1-star, pass, guys, Snoozeville?
I'll go first. I don't have to go second and last all the time. I will give it 4 stars. Even in the first season, it certainly seemed intriguing, but I did see possible pitfalls in the premise, which I think were largely ironed out by season 2, and actually at a very specific point in season 2. I thought that there was a lot going on in the first season, which is why I'd be at 4 stars. Like, I felt the balance between parody, homage, and even sort of ripoff was a little unstable, but it got better, and that's why I would be at 4 stars.
I give it a 5-star. Even with the first season, definitely the second season was better, but there were storylines in the first season that I really, really liked, so I'm still giving it a 5.
I will give it my standard fractional score, and I will say 4.45.
Did you see me do this?
You beat me to it.
Oof.
Fine.
I love the show, but it's not a 5-star for me. There's other things that I watch that I enjoy far more. This is a really good show, but it doesn't hit the 5, but I think it's better than just a plain 4.
But not good enough to be 4.5. Okay.
He's doing that for my benefit. Just never mind. Keep going.
Okay.
You're welcome.
need to give it a 4.5 before Spencer.
Another Muppet.
I would say 4.5 because I love This Is Us much more, and Cobra Kai a little bit more. I still love the show, so I'd say 4.5 is good for me.
I'm just gonna give it a 4. I'm just gonna give it a 4 out of 5. That's still an 80%. So
says the teacher.
Are we grading on a curve?
I mean, actually, probably because we compare everything to something else.
It depends on whether or not you get expelled, Spencer.
No, I'm sure that's going to happen sooner or later.
I mean, I still like it, but I don't. I'm just gonna give it a 4.
Okay.
And I would give it a 5. I truly enjoy the show. Like I said, I've watched Next Generation multiple times over. I've watched Deep Space Nine multiple times over, and I felt like this show filled a void. There wasn't really the classic space fantasy type show that had been on TV for a while. And as Alex said, it's not quite as dry as Star Trek can be. Now, there's humor certainly in the Star Trek series, but this has got Seth MacFarlane's special touch to it while not going overboard. But I felt it was something that television was really lacking, and this filled it, and it did it quite well. It had its usual growing pains at the very beginning while everything was trying to find its footing, and are these things going to land and whatnot. But especially once they hit the ground running with a lot of their plot points in season 2, it really became one of those, okay, I would put this up in the pantheon with some of the better sci-fi series out there. That's just my personal opinion, of course.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback off that. I'm going to give it 5 stars as well. And I feel like we're going to be doing a lot of comparing to Star Trek, but even the kind of shakiness of season 1, the little like, oh, they're trying to figure it out. Most of the Star Trek shows have a shaky first season, and I feel like this one's actually a little bit knows what they're trying to do a little bit better than like a season 1 Next Gen or season 1 Deep Space Nine. So, and yeah, I agree, especially with, as much as I like the new Star Trek shows that are coming out, this actually gives me a little bit more of a Next Gen feel too. So yeah, I'm going full 5 stars on it. All right. Thank you for getting everything on the record here. And now we're going to dive into season 1 so anyone can just talk about things they like, characters. It doesn't have to go in order. If you dip into season 2, I won't give you the Sarah side-eye for it, but we're going to start with season 1 mostly.
I would say that, and this is probably the shot that Nick and Sarah are expecting, I think of this as a good version of Star Trek. And it's not that Star Trek is bad. I enjoyed Star Trek greatly. It's just the way that this has hit the modernization of the concept, and the humor that is in it is so appropriate to our time. I guess I just find it more entertaining for that.
I agree with you.
Version.
Yeah, I agree exactly with you. That's how I feel about it too. Because I mean, I've watched a few of the Star Trek episodes, and the ones I've watched I like, but this one I feel like is just more entertaining somehow for all those reasons you just said. Yeah, I agree.
The first season to me actually feels like, because we all know that Seth is a gigantic nerd just like the rest of us who are on this panel, and so he draws in a lot of different influences. To me, the Orville feels like what you have. Galaxy Quest was actually a really good kind of comparison, because that was where my brain originally went when I was watching the first few episodes. But it's almost like what you have when you add Star Trek plus Star Wars, plus the Seth MacFarlane brand humor, if you will, and you mix it all together, because it has that laid-back feel of Star Wars. It has sort of that operatic scope like Star Wars, but it dives into the episodic issue-based stories like Star Trek. And of course, the whole bridge setup and all the ship setup is a direct analog to Star Trek. So this, to me, was trying to please a lot of different sci-fi fans at once, which I think is what made me stick with it, because I'm one of those fans, and I was along for it, even though, and I don't want to say that I disliked it at any point, because I didn't. I didn't see the magic until later, I guess, when it sort of evened out.
And I expected that there would be maybe a character or something I wouldn't like in a show like this, but they actually did a really good job of making all of the characters likable in their own way, which surprised me.
Yeah, very true. I think a lot of thought went into the creation of characters where they're not trying to be a clone of a Star Trek character, and yet at the same time there are a couple personality traits in there that you can see that you can make those comparisons to, which gives the viewer a chance to draw in and go, oh, I identify with this because they remind me of this particular character. But then, of course, they go off in their own direction, which is what you kind of hope to see anyways.
You can really tell it's in those things that are closer to Star Trek. They're not rip-offs. They're either homages or they're literally a fan who was like, that's an awesome idea, and here's another way to go with it. I'm trying to think of a season 1 example, because the ones that are coming to my mind are season 2, which we'll get to, but it really is, it's like, oh, there's an episode of Next Gen like this, and sometimes this is going to be a story arc where we're going to actually see more steps and spend more time with, or it's starting from the same starting point and taking a different left turn.
There have been a number of episodes where we've watched it and I've turned to Alex and gone, oh, this is just like this episode. This happened in this way and this happened in this way. And they turned it around a little bit and I like what they did, but this is clearly coming. I can see where they got some of the source material from.
And then he shows me the episode.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
As any good nerd would do.
Yeah. And I see the parallels.
There's also weird parallels that are like almost too exact that I don't think are intentional. Like, it's really weird that it's the doctor that's a single mom, or it's the pilot that becomes the engineer. Like, what? I don't know if that wasn't intentional. It just kind of happened in his storytelling. But it was like, wow, that's right, exactly on the nose. But the characters are so different and their own.
I have a number of thoughts that have been brewing in my mind over the past few days. I'm about as far from obsessive compulsive about most things as anybody could be. But when it comes to labeling things with genres and things like that, I have a little bit of a love-hate relationship. So the idea in my head is that I love all these things, but when you try to mix them together, it really messes with my head. So, like, what I mean by that is, like, there's so much great comedy in this, but then when they start to, they mix comedy with drama, there's like a moment in my head where I say, okay, transitioning from funny laughing moment to, this drama kind of thing. So it's probably just a me thing. But like one of the things I thought was that I would have really liked it if they started the first episode with a little bit more of an overview of or at least a number of the main characters. I realized that the divorce side of the thing with Kelly and Ed was a big part of the storyline, but I felt like it started out really dramatic, but then they put that comedic element in there, and when he walked into the room and the blue guy popped up and the liquid squirted out of his head, I was like, what in the world is going on here? I was like, you've got an affair, which is heartbreaking, and then she's having an affair with this thing. What is she doing with this alien? And so my head has got to wrap around, this is a whole bunch of individual things that I enjoy, and don't even try to make sense of it, because some of it just doesn't make any sense to me. And maybe that's why I love it so much, is because I just have to kind of be in this weird place all the time of, what are we talking about? Are we funny here now, or are we serious here now? That's just my crazy brain jumping all over the place.
I actually love the way that the show started with the dysfunction between Ed and Kelly, and then also Ed having his best friend on the ship to kind of talk him into bad decisions, etc. It just added a really fun dynamic that kept it moving.
I liked it too. I liked the beginning, how he had to get on. We saw the ship come together and he was convincing some of the people, and it reminded me of Star Trek Enterprise. So here you go.
I feel like it happened so fast, though. It's like first thing, first scene, affair, boom, and then next you jump right to 1 year later, and now he's going to take on I felt like it just went really fast for me at the very beginning, anyway. That was just.
I think they had to do that though, just to give that backstory element of the relationship between Ed and Kelly. Without that first scene, that would have been much harder to explain.
I also feel that tension between Ed and Kelly was such a huge part of the story, though, throughout the whole season. I feel like there was just always something there between them, so I feel like it was good that they established that in the beginning, because that weird relationship is just so big, especially as we come to find out near the end of season 2.
It's really, really interesting to me is that watching this back through a second time, kind of, that just judge me, but she didn't throughout the series. If I hadn't had known that she was the type to have an affair, quote unquote, I would never have seen her that way. She just has a way about her, this kind of wisdom. I liked her a lot, and I didn't want to. I've always felt bad for her, even though I knew, I don't like this kind of affair thing. It's interesting, the dynamic, because she didn't. It started out being this bad guy, but she ended up being a really likable person. Not that you can't be likable. Please don't get me wrong. I'm just saying.
But see, we got a plot twist on that kind of, because it turns out that the reason why that affair happened could have been because of the pheromones that was put off by that blue guy. I don't remember his name.
Derulio.
He was later played by Rob Lowe. Just so you know.
It turns out that could have been the real reason. So I get what you say that, she doesn't look like the type of person that would have it. Well, maybe she didn't really mean to do it. It's just the pheromones.
Actually, that's Rob Lowe. That makes sense.
And we also get to see her. They talk about how they were a little bit more wild 7 years ago with the drinking a lot, and she was more encouraging in that. And getting to see her in that two-parter 7 years,
That's season 2.
Mm-hmm. But it's connecting to, you do get to see that she wasn't always this mature and grounded. They just do it. I do think they did a good job of rounding all the characters out, really.
Yeah, I think whenever they set up an affair like that in a show, it's hard because we want to not like that person. But it really speaks to the fact that you're creating a well-rounded character, and there are good people that do terrible things, and there's terrible people that do good things. And I liked the right around with the pheromones, and I think they kind of really tried to paint this whole neglected wife picture that she felt very insecure in their relationship, so maybe she was more susceptible to it. But I like that they didn't address it at first. They let us be mad at her for a while, and so it kind of gave you some perspective to think about her more well-rounded as a character. She's probably my favorite character. I just really like the writing, and I like that actress. I wasn't super familiar with her.
She was on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Adrienne
Palicki. Friday Night Lights, was she big in that one?
I think so.
Anyone? Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you saw her elsewhere and you want to tell us where, tweet us at CPU Podcast and let us know. Adrienne Palicki. I think she's actually Seth's girlfriend in real life. Did I read that?
Is that real? Because I have reactions and thoughts and feelings.
It was a character.
This is the first I'm hearing
on
this.
the show in season 1 who was gone by season 2 that had been in a relationship with Seth MacFarlane and broke up.
Yeah.
What? Okay, I have more thoughts. So my first thought and feeling was I didn't have a problem with the affair part of it. I agree with you, Jared. It was a little bit abrupt the way they kind of went into the future. I guess they time jumped into where we're supposed to be right now. It wasn't the affair part that I had the problem with. I was having a really hard time believing Seth MacFarlane and Adrienne Palicki were ever married to begin with. I had a really hard time suspending disbelief, which is not to say that I didn't feel their chemistry right away. I think that chemistry developed over time. Number 1. Number 2, you've alluded to Alara Spencer. She was my least favorite character, and I actually felt the show was really... That's the turning point for the show, was when Alara left. Now, if she's left because she was a jilted lover, that's what? Twist. And then also, Gordon is my favorite character.
No, I like him.
So I like him. Just bringing onto your chemistry thing there between Seth and Adrienne, I think that was by design, because when we really first get to know them both as characters, it's that, hey, we just recently been divorced and now we're stuck together, and then they regain kind of the friendship feeling.
Yeah, but there usually comes with that an aspect of sexual tension that can be, it can be built off of bad feeling. You usually sense that in pairings like that in other television shows. I didn't detect it. Now, that isn't to say that, like I said, I feel like it developed over time. Even when they were still not in a lovey-dovey place, I felt like it kind of found its footing. But initially, I didn't believe it, and not just because she slept with the blue guy.
Well, this says it's a rumor, so I guess I'm not right. But who knows?
Okay, well, that
maybe
they weird.
Did you follow him, Kylie, on Twitter? Do you follow Seth MacFarlane?
I do.
Might. I don't remember if I do or not.
Brian, ask him.
Sure. Yeah, we're tight. I'll fire it off.
Yeah, and tell him about your music arrangement. Maybe he'll send you a mark.
Yeah, you never know.
That's Bruce Broughton, but yeah.
Sorry, just to be clear.
Knows him. He probably can have his people call your people.
Yeah.
What was the rumor, Sarah?
That Adrian Padalecki and Seth MacFarlane were dating in real life.
Okay, and then the other thing I wanted to pick up is that I thought that what I heard with the character, the actress leaving for Alara, is that a different show had a scandal with, like, the creator star dating another cast member, and it was more of Fox's intervention. Maybe you could look, they gave them time to kind of write the character off, but they just didn't even want to relive, like, they didn't break up, and that's why she left. They were still together, and that's why Fox didn't want them to.
Are they still together?
I don't know.
I don't think so. Halston Sage?
I mean, pretty much after she was gone off the show, there were things all over the net about them not being together anymore.
Oh, okay. I did not see that.
Maybe they were together and she was written off the show, and that, you know, because he didn't fight to keep her on the show or whatever. I don't know.
Who does he play? Who's that?
Huh? Who?
That.
Seth MacFarlane and the girl who played Alara were allegedly dating at the beginning of the show.
I never heard that.
I just threw my iPad. I didn't hear that one, and I don't know. I don't like her that much. I'm sorry. I'm sure she's not in real life.
Yeah, I thought she was really kind of wooden and not...
Yes.
I did not find her sympathetic. The best part about her character was that Robert Picardo played her father.
Oh, yeah.
He was the villain in that one. So 2 Star Trek doctors in 1.
Yeah. I thought too that a lot of her feature episodes, she kind of got the short straw as far as some of those plots. To me, I didn't think that her episodes were the greatest. I did like her character. I really did. I just thought that she wasn't given necessarily the greatest material to try and grow with.
You didn't like Scary Clowns?
I didn't like that episode.
I wasn't a huge fan of that episode, not just from the phobia standpoint. I just didn't think it was terribly well written.
I didn't like that one that much either, honestly.
Sorry to go back a little bit about the starting the show off with the divorce and right off the get-go. I do think there might have been a little bit of, some people aren't going to find Seth MacFarlane a believable lead, let's make him sympathetic right from the get-go. But also distancing from Star Trek in that this isn't quite the utopia. We're almost there.
Yeah.
They're flawed people, and we're going to get to know them and see them kind of rise above and work those issues out, which you don't have that a lot with Star Trek. They all get along really well, and I think they wanted to hit that right off the bat.
That's the part
I think that's something TV is doing better in general over the last 10, 15 years, is they are giving us characters with serious flaws, which we can relate to more easily and are far more believable than, a lot of the perfect TV characters that we saw in our youth.
That's the part I like the best about the Orville, actually, is the fact that it does kind of start in this nascent utopia, if you will, where they're still ironing out the kinks, because I think the stories that they have introduced are in some ways really good Star Trek stories that they've allowed themselves to explore the complexities and nuances of a little bit better, and with that sort of present-day sense of humor that Spencer alluded to earlier. So it feels relatable in the moment and is less of an allegory than sometimes Star Trek episodes can be.
It's one of the things that made it more enjoyable to watch a second time, because the first time Sarah and I were like, they can't do that, the Prime Direct. Like, we had to remind ourselves that we're not there yet. They don't have the same rules. They don't have transporters, but they have a cloak. It's crazy.
Yeah, they can cloak their shuttles. What?
Yeah.
They can cloak their shuttles, but they can't cloak the ship.
Yeah, I don't get that either.
Power. The more power you use,
They have to hide and
pick up the
pretend they're ice.
Well, I think it's not too late for me to say I actually had a bit of a crush on Alara.
Really?
I liked her.
Oh,
You see, here's the thing. You talk about relatable. So this was the thing that was interesting to me. She was this really, like, the strongest person on the ship, like this really, really strong female lead. I loved that. But then the reality is that even though she was stronger than anybody, she still had insecurities. So she could be strong, but also have insecurities. And there was just something about her that maybe it was just something about a strong woman that just kind of turned me on a little bit. I don't know. But,
I actually like the way that they explained her insecurities relating back to her parents.
yeah,
Mhm.
and I liked her. Her and Bortus were my two favorite strange characters.
I just like Talia a lot because she took charge and kicked ass and took names and was sassy, and I love this scene. I know this is in season 2, but I like the scenes when she was like, so what if I'm going to lose my job? I'm going to do this. I
Yeah.
just liked, I related to that a little bit better.
I felt that Alara was what Kylie said, a little wooden. I didn't mind her writing, but I will be honest with you, and I try not to disparage people's acting, but her acting really bothered me a lot, and such to the point that at one point Nick was like, you gotta get over it. Like, we're what? You know, like, I couldn't, I don't know. It was
What do you mean by
upsetting to me.
What is it wooden?
I did not read any intent behind any of her lines, really. I was looking for a motivation, an emotion, an intent, a
Well,
beat.
wasn't that part of her character?
I think
Wasn't
there's
that
a...
what her character?
No, I mean, I think there's a difference between that. So Bortus was very dry at times, but I always understood what that actor was trying to convey. And with her, I just felt like she was saying the lines.
And I think I would have believed it was part of her character if Talia didn't come on and be so much more convincing and be the same, from the same race with the same stuff that was affecting her. So
I kind of thought that Talia's character was a little bit like if Alara matured some
Yeah, I thought Talia
Yeah.
was awesome.
and got a sense of confidence.
Sarah, have you watched any of Prodigal Son on Fox yet?
No.
The same actress is playing the lead character's sister, and I
she's
realized
in there.
she looked familiar. She's improved a lot. I think it's just a question of she's growing as an actress and maybe wasn't quite
Yeah.
ready for the role.
I mean, clearly somebody cast her and paid her and enjoyed her, but I wonder if she thought, okay, this is this character and I have to be stoic, but to me it didn't come across the way some other people play stoic, like Brent Spiner and Michael Dorn. I'm going back to Next Gen because those are some easy examples to see. And again, I am not an expert, although I do have a bachelor's in acting, but I don't do it very often. So I could be totally wrong. It just, for me, I was like, oh my Lord. It was just a little dry for me to watch. But
and I totally agree with Sarah. So I just think it depends on what you... I think she improved as well over the course of the first season and into the second season, but then she went away and somebody else came along that felt a little bit easier to connect with.
Again, this is season 2, but I do think her final episode where we focused on her a lot, I think she actually did
yeah,
a good
That was
job.
good.
It was a good story too.
Yeah, which is helpful.
very creative way to write her off the show. I mean, very...
Yeah.
Yeah.
They gave her a nice goodbye, which I thought was really sweet for a second season departure, because most people do not get that. So.
Yeah, I very much appreciated, I don't know how much we want to go into necessarily with season 2 yet, but I did appreciate the fact that the way that they wrote her off did leave the door open for a return. I hate when they write a character off and they kill them or they make it impossible for them to return, something along those lines, especially if I'm sure there are fans of Alara out there who would love to see that character come back. And they do have that opportunity now.
Yeah.
Whether or not she does,
I just, while we were talking here, I just kind of Googled the whole thing, and Fox even said at the time the door is open for her to come back to the series if the opportunity is appropriate. So there doesn't appear to have been any bad blood, whatever.
No, I
Believe
think
Fox
that's obvious.
executives as much as you can.
I think that's obvious with her coming back at the end of season 2 for that episode as well. Obviously not a big part, but
Yeah.
They also, this connects to it, but is also, there's other examples of this show seeding things and stories that they're going to tell or even become bigger arcs. Like we met Alara's parents before and they've mentioned the backstory. So even though that episode where she left was really good, it also connected to what we already knew about her. And they kind of have been seeding that, like with the Bortus storyline, and as we're learning about that species is also a couple times where it's like, how are they a part of the Federation? But they're not. They're figuring it out. And like, that's, again, one of the things that's really fun to watch and figure out, because I don't know if the Mocklins should be a part of the Planetary Union.
I just want to send a note of appreciation that all of the admirals of the Planetary Union have long and storied careers in the entertainment business. Kelly, who a little less. But to see Victor Garber and Ted Danson as two of the admirals, and they keep coming back, it's so much fun.
Yeah.
Dude, Danson, that guy works all the time.
He's got the work.
Out. Good for you, Ted.
Crazy.
And the other admiral's Ron Canada, who has played many Star Trek characters throughout the Star Trek franchise. And again, like, it works out. They would talk to different admirals. They keep coming back, which is awesome. But sometimes it just is like, oh, we couldn't afford that person or get them back. But then they bring all of those admirals at the end of season 2. Like, they're really paying attention and just keeping the world. You're really becoming a part of the world the more the show continues.
Well, plus, I know we're just blending the seasons at this point, Nick. So I know, but you know how I love the continuity. I think that's the other best part of the Orville, is that they're really paying good attention to the continuity. I haven't felt like they're making weird callbacks or changing something in the middle of the road that they established from the beginning, and that makes it fun. That just adds to the improvement overall.
Yeah, I find that anytime a show has good continuity, it's far easier to hold my attention.
Same.
Yeah. And again, I think they went and they did their homework with all of the history of Star Trek episodes and whatnot, where they saw where things didn't work, or where there were those holes or those random callbacks that just didn't make sense. And they went, okay, here's our chance to patch that and not make those pitfalls.
Yeah, and if you are a Star Trek fan and you're coming into this a little nervous that it's going to just literally make fun of Star Trek, you have so many opportunities to see that it's got Star Trek's stamp of approval. I mean, Penny Johnson has played at least two Star Trek, but she's a pretty important character in Deep Space Nine.
Yep.
And then the guest stars, I mean, Marina Sirtis, Tim Russ, there's just so many throughout.
And let us not fail to mention that both Robert Duncan McNeil and Jonathan Frakes directed episodes for this show.
Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I would be very interested to know, honestly. I don't know if anybody read anything or watched anything, but what is the greatest premise of all of this? Like, did they mean for it to be mostly a spoof of Star Trek? Because to me, if you took away the comedy, you'd have very much Deep Space Nine, Star Trek The Next Generation kind of a show. So I'd be curious what if they had a main purpose with this, because I didn't know if it was supposed to be a spoof or what it was supposed to be.
I think it was probably an homage.
Mm-hmm.
What is an homage?
A tip of the cap.
A tribute.
That makes sense.
I didn't know what I was going to get when I started watching this show. Honestly, I thought I was going to see a parody. Honestly, that's what I was thinking. But then I saw that it wasn't,
because it would have gotten old very quickly if it was.
Yeah, it turned out way better than what I was expecting.
I believe, and somebody who's quick on the internet could look it up, but sometime in the gap after Star Trek Enterprise went off the air, and we went a pretty long time without a Star Trek show, sometime in there, Seth MacFarlane was trying to get the rights to create the next Star Trek show, and he basically gave up on, or could not do it, and this is the result.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
Well, as you said in the beginning, Seth's a big Trekkie too. I've heard of stories of him throwing Star Trek themed parties, and like you said, the entire cast, Next Generation, showed up in a Family Guy episode. He's got that deep love for the show, and I didn't think that if he was going to, they were going to hand him the keys to the car, that he was going to just take it and he was going to wreck it for the sake of a joke.
Yeah.
That's fair.
And honestly, I like I've said a million times already, but I like the storylines are so good, and honestly, I like the storylines a bit better than the humor. The humor's fine, but honestly, his story writing is what really hooked me on it.
And I
It's
do
really
think
good.
The comedy starts to blend into the storylines better in season 2, as sometimes it's like, oh, this scene didn't have a joke, we better throw one in there.
Yeah.
It became a lot more natural.
Yes, exactly.
Workplace humor without trying to go the Office way of making the jokes very blatant.
Yeah, the humor kind of seemed a little forced in the beginning.
Yes.
Just a bit. It was funny, but it also just seemed, I don't know, it just didn't seem like it really fit. Like he was purposely trying to put it in there to say, "Oh, look, I am Seth MacFarlane. I'm going to add."
In the beginning, you kind of have that feeling with Gordon that he's the "that's what she said" guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So
And
funny.
I like him though.
he's really funny.
slapstick.
I couldn't help but hear Brian for 5 episodes. Brian Griffin.
Yep.
I'm Seth and Brian are too similar, and so
Yeah,
was
that's what I think of too.
Yeah, he was delivering Ed at first. I don't think it stayed that way, but very Brian-like, and I just was like, I couldn't marry my brain.
I think Seth MacFarlane is just Brian.
I think he is too.
I think it's just him.
Probably.
And Ed Mercer needs to actually be less Seth MacFarlane.
Yeah.
So, and I think he's finding it out. As he's finding his footing as a captain, which is a parallel that I'm enjoying with the show. So I have no problem watching Seth MacFarlane figure out what he's doing. But the cast is getting more and more, it feels more like an ensemble as time goes on. And there's a few characters we haven't brought up yet. So there any other?
Oh, Bortus. We gotta
Oh
talk
my
about
goodness.
Talea.
that guy. Is cray. When he was pregnant, that was
Oh
fun,
my goodness.
and
Where
he
did
was
that egg come from?
not like, yeah, I'm pregnant. But then he was like addicted to porn. What?
And cigarettes.
Makes no sense. It made no
And the
sense.
mustache wasn't necessary.
That was funny.
I mean, they were really going for it with him. I mean, but works, whatever.
I really like.
I thought it was great.
I really like Bortus, but I find it hard to cheer for him and Clyden. Like
I hate Clyden.
yeah, he is. He's just. He is high maintenance. That one.
Like
Yeah,
he
that's
like
the one character I don't like on the
What a
show.
bunch of weirdness.
Bortus needs to just stab him and divorce him.
I
Put him
kept
in an
wanting
airlock,
Bortus to
jettison
stab
him,
him
I'm good.
back. Bortus, just stab him.
Yeah, exactly. Like he needs to get. I hate Clyden.
Yeah.
Send him back to.
So Clyden represents that interesting. I think something that is probably is in the forefront is modern day right now. But like, how far do we respect other people's cultures?
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
you can't do that as much with the cast member because we'd be saying we hate that cast member. So while I agree, I don't like Clyden. The purpose he serves, I love, and it's such an awesome payoff when Bortus basically calls him out, has Commander Grayson stay there and tell him how he's been disrespecting her. Like, we just talked about how goofy and ridiculous Bortus is, but they still have these insightful, sentimental, these awesome moments that aren't forced. They're coming natural, and I don't know what they're going to do with those characters, because that's one of the last actual scenes with those two that you see until there's like a dance party and they're really dancing out. It's like, what is going on?
Well,
I think Bortus is a great character.
I think it also, since none of the other characters are in any kind of like long committed relationship, Ed and Kelly have already gone their separate ways, and despite Ed's trying to re-spark things, the only relationship that we see that's fully committed is Bortus and I forgot. Clyden, thank you. And with that, we're also seeing couples fight. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they're knockdown, drag-it-out fights. And it's real. It keeps it real.
Yeah, and about how they were like, well, we're not being intimate since we had a baby. Like, they were like going for some real stuff there.
Yeah.
I mean, not to get weird on you, but it was, he felt like the rejected spouse. And so then he was doing the do we call it a holodeck? What are we calling
simulator. It's a simulator.
Okay.
Yeah. 6 in one, half dozen in the other.
Right.
But.
So he was like addicted to the simulator. I also loved all the stuff when they had a girl and they were like, no, do we leave her or do we?
That was a great episode. That was like the second episode too, or something like that.
I felt bad for Bortus and the baby.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and
they pulled no punches.
I was unhappy with that ending.
Normally a show like that'll ease you in for a couple episodes before coming at you, but this is the third episode of the entire show. They're coming at you with a knockout punch and some serious issues.
And that episode, along with the Biodome ship episode, is what really kept this at 5-star for me. Like, I loved those 2 episodes a lot.
One of the things we've talked about a lot on our Star Trek 50 Plus series as we're moving through the next generation right now is how the Star Trek franchise really struggled to include storylines that fell into LGBTQ inclusion themes, I guess. And Orville doesn't even miss a step. It just starts right away by having different cultures that are already ingrained with those ideals, and then bringing up these issues in a way that doesn't already plant it into norms that we accept and know as a daily thing. And to that, so I think it was Ryan or maybe Nick who said it earlier, that what Orville does is go back and look at what Star Trek did and then found a way to patch it. It was Ryan, you said it. Found a way to patch it. I think that's one of the things that they really did patch very well, is take on these heady issues and then not feel like obligated to plug in certain archetypes that would make it so readily identifiable and relatable just because this was an expected audience on the other end of it.
Yeah. And it's not a one-off. This storyline goes out. We see the struggle from a main character point of view with Bortus, and we're seeing more of Topa as Topa gets older. But we've gone back to Machlis. We found out there are more women down from Machlis. Like, we keep going with it, and it doesn't seem like they were like, let's bring this back. It seems very intentional.
Yeah. And I love that plot twist at the end of that episode where it turns out like she wrote the actual book that they all idolized, and they all thought it was a male who did it, but it was actually her. And like, that was so cool.
And that one of the main arguments in the trial is like, this person will be ostracized if we don't do the procedure. I'm like, well, you guys are the ones doing that. You could just not ostracize them, right?
But it's ingrained in their brain.
Yeah, but it's the it is our way.
Yes.
Type.
Yeah.
To me, I felt like, in the past, Star Trek has tried to do similar things with gender issue. Like they did one where there was an all-female planet before.
Yes.
Because by flipping it that way, they weren't. And for the time, I'm not putting them down, but they didn't really have to address the issue that is a patriarchal society that we're all coming to terms with and trying to change. Whereas the Orville was like, no, we're just going to tell you what it is. It's this, and take it, like deal with it, which I like. I mean, they do have a little more, I think, freedom because of the era that they're in, but it's nice to see that, like, it was not a big deal that 2 men were having a baby and in a relationship. That's just their culture. And like Bortus was so nonchalant. I was like, yeah, I'm pregnant. So who cares? Like, that's just what happened. So
and then
I don't know.
That
was cool.
On the flip side, we have Isaac, who I also enjoy as a character, despite the fact that we learn so much about his race of artificial beings. And it's not
That was a very interesting storyline.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was a great one.
What did you think about his relationship with
Blair, Dr. Finn?
That is honestly the first episode that, like, before when I was watching episodes, I would have the second screen experience from time to time or be kind of tuned in and not really. When Claire started to move toward a romantic coupling with Isaac and the way they handled it, I was glued to the screen from that moment on. Because at first I thought it was going to be a little weird, but it actually was handled very delicately and in a way that made you think.
Yeah, I love their courting process. I love that courting process. Of course, I'm a little biased because as an orchestral musician, they actually brought in an actual orchestra for that day, so I really like that personally. But I just, I personally like them together.
I was rooting for Yaphet.
That's a great character
Not really, but that's a pretty hilarious part.
Yeah. I like that character a lot.
I love Norm MacDonald's delivery. He's got that dryness that is just so funny to me.
He's still got a little of that, the way he delivered Weekend Update through Yaphet.
Yes.
So it's nice nostalgia.
Yeah.
We can all remember when Bortus ate Party Yaphet.
Yes.
Even write that. That's just, I don't even.
And he was trapped inside of Yaphet, right? What happened?
Well, he could feel it. It was like it's in a dark, wet place or something. Because he could feel it because it was a part of his arm. And it just turned out that I think Gordon like chopped a piece of his appendage and put it in the desserts. And so then, as a prank, and then Bortus ate it.
He's always pranking Bortus and making him eat weird things.
Because he will.
That was funny.
Because he'll just eat it.
Yep, because he'll eat everything. He'll eat a glass. He'll just...
A succulent, apparently. I forgot about that.
Yaphet's another example of this character that could easily just be a punchline, especially because it is Norm Macdonald and how he, when the Kalon take over the ship, how he helps, and I really cared. I did not want him to die. I wanted the character to keep coming back.
He took care of Ty for Claire, too.
Yeah.
Like, his feelings for her are genuine. He's not just a sexy blob.
And when he finds out that Claire went on a date with Isaac on the simulator, we get to see Norm Macdonald.
I know. That was funny.
Yeah, that was great.
To go back to the Isaac-Claire storyline, because they've left it open. They might get back together. She just needs time. There's too many things that I want to talk about. I think they handled well. Isaac did horrible things, and they are willing to trust him again, but that it's going to need time. But they focused on us seeing that through Claire as well. But the relationship, I also think one of the reasons that worked is that we've established Claire as the sensible person on this ship, and they address it, and she thinks that this is crazy, and she seeks guidance to like talk through it. So it doesn't seem like this impulsive thing.
No, it's not.
I really enjoyed Isaac's relationship with Claire's boys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think that's where his character really grew.
Mm-hmm.
That one where they're stranded and Claire is not well and Isaac has to take care of them.
By the way, I believe Mark Jackson, who plays Isaac, is from England, number one. Number two...
He was born there, but he lived here for 20 years.
Wow! That's like
Nicely
so much
played.
in common. Also, though, when we saw Kalon in full force, this was one of the moments that was a little bit jarring for me because I kept seeing what if Data was assimilated by the Borg? We would have the Kalon. Yeah. So that's kind of where I was at headspace wise. Now I have been watching Next Gen as well because we have our Star Trek series, so it was kind of hard to be like, but I kept seeing that. It was a little bit of a suspension of disbelief problem on my part.
Mark
right
Jackson
there is
English, but he was born in Amsterdam.
Okay, so he's less than, is that what you're saying?
But right there was an example, too, of, like I said, the combination of characters as well, because immediately I thought, well, Isaac is Data. Yeah. They went to, okay, they didn't give him a full human prosthetic or whatnot. He's Data. And then once we get into season 2, and especially the Kalon War storyline, all of a sudden, they are the Borg.
Right.
They incorporated a lot of elements of the Borg into the actual Kalon race.
Yeah, and right off the bat, Isaac is, the way he's not like Data, even in season 1, is Data wants to be human. Isaac does not. He knows that he's better than them.
Yeah.
We'll tell
Yeah, the second time I watched it, I said his gait, the way his voice sounds, the vocal gait was the same as Data. Like many times I could close my eyes and hear Data and just the way he spoke.
I said that too, Jared. I said that to Nick a couple times. Is he doing a Data thing, or is this
it's too similar. It must be at least partly trying to mimic him.
I think an homage maybe is the nicest way.
That's the word.
It's Jared's favorite word.
I think orange.
Yeah, I don't think any characters on this show are blatant rip-offs.
No.
But there are some clear homages. I always looked at Bortus and went, well, that's
Worf.
a Klingon. That's Worf. Yeah.
It's Worf.
It's a funnier version of Worf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And probably a better parent.
Clearly the Mocklins are styled after the Klingon race. The warrior, the very proud, very traditionalist kind of species.
Although the Krill could also be Klingon, just because they have more of the conquest and religion piece.
Krill make me think a little bit more of a cross between the Cardassians and the Bajorans.
Oh, I see Cardassian. I guess I see Bajoran with the religion piece.
The Bajorans' religion as being the focal point of their existence, combined with the Cardassians' warlike state.
Yeah.
Well,
I really liked the episode where Ed got trapped aboard the Krill ship.
Yeah.
Yes.
That
like
was one of my
Talea.
favorite episodes of the whole show.
Like, I think Talea is a great character, and I want to see more of her for sure. Like, I think she's awesome. I love the way they send her off. I know we're switching to another episode. I think it's in the second season, isn't it? Where, she and Ed are trapped on that planet, and they got to help each other out. And then they send her off, and I think, what is it, Billy Joel's Piano Man or something? Or
Always a Woman.
Always a Woman. Yeah, Always a Woman is playing. I just think that was such a great send-off, and I love that. I love her character so much. And I want her to come back.
I think she'll be back, but that's another good point. So you talked about the orchestral soundtrack, which is great. By the way, John Debney is the show's composer, the theme composer certainly. I think he does quite a lot of the underscoring for the episodes. And he is a working composer. Like, he has done a lot. You've heard his music before. But I also just really love the selections of popular music that pop through on this show. Again, this is where Seth and his crazy mind goes, and this is what I appreciate about him. Again, this is in season 2. Sorry, Nick, I don't know where we are in the circle of this stuff. But after they discover the colony of female Mocklins and 9 to 5 becomes the voice.
Oh, yeah, the Dolly Parton.
I just loved that. It was so fun.
She's enthralled, and the humans are all just like, oh god.
And she delivers it to the Planetary Union, and Mercer turns to the Admiral and's like,
Don't even ask.
And it made me cackle. It made me cackle out loud in one of the earlier episodes too, when the entire engineering department is listening to Barry Manilow. Yeah. And Mercer walks in and is just saying, oh, Manilow was a genius. Talking about him like we would talk about Mozart or Beethoven, something like that. They're putting Barry Manilow in that same level of reverence that like a Star Trek episode would put on one of the great classical composers.
And not as many people today would do that same thing about classical music.
Or Barry Manilow. Why? I'm sure there are Fanilows.
Fanilows.
That's what they're called. I'm not making it up.
They're out there.
Does anyone remember when Bortus sang karaoke?
I do.
Nope, because it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And he's like, "You will be silent," when everyone was laughing.
Oh.
Also, what's his name that plays Gordon? Has an amazing singing voice. Who is that guy?
He does.
I'm looking it up right now.
He does voices for Seth MacFarlane shows.
The episode where he, again in season 2, one of my favorite episodes of the series to date is when he
I liked
the
it.
time capsule telephone, and he has and Leighton Meester is his girlfriend. Holodeck, the simulator. It's such a touching episode, and the song that they sing at the end is so sweet.
Yeah, his name is Scott Grimes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he does a ton of stuff. Just a lot of...
was before.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what the biggie that, where he came to prominence.
Drama.
He was on ER for years.
Yeah, he was on ER.
They sing on ER?
Oh.
Okay.
In fact, his character on ER was kind of a douchebag.
Yes, and he was on Party of 5 forever.
Oh, right, he was on Party of 5.
Yeah.
I remember. He didn't sing there either.
No, I see him singing on any of the things he does.
Scott Grimes and Adrian Palicki were actually married to each other for a year.
Oh, that's some explanation.
He's in a Next Gen episode, season 3, called Evolution.
Which one is Evolution again?
Says on IMDb, Evolution, Wesley's latest science project escapes the lab, threatening the Enterprise in an eminent scientist's lifelong project. It says he's in it.
Well, I'm going to have to rewatch that one then.
It's the one with the doctor from Scrubs.
The doctor from Scrubs?
And Jenkins from Broadway's Big River. If that helps you.
That's what I should have said.
Speaking of Gordon, how did you guys react in the episode in season 1 where Gordon tried to teach Isaac how to do a practical joke?
Oh.
And
So,
he got
two
his leg
things.
chopped off.
The Mr.
Yeah.
Potato Head thing was hilarious.
Yeah, the potato head, that was awesome.
Hilarious. But then when I did not expect the leg thing at
Yeah.
all, I was shocked. I was like, it was hilarious and excruciatingly awful at the same time.
That's par for the humor.
And in the next
So funny.
episode, he gets stabbed in the leg, and he goes, "That was my new leg."
Yeah.
Right.
That's true.
And then he's got like that miniature leg, like when it was like regenerating.
As he was walking.
Yeah.
Gross.
So weird.
Okay, just to be thorough, is there anything specific to season 1 you want to talk about?
Okay, I just have to go right in and talk about the Biodome episode because I just love that. I just thought it was so fascinating that they came upon this ship of people who were living there for thousands of years, or I don't know how long it really was, and they had no idea that they were on a ship because enough time had passed and progressed that they had no idea. And I just thought that was so cool and so fascinating. And that's one of those episodes that I really would love to have it extended and like learn more about that. And I would love to have like a spin-off just about that story. Like it sounds like it would be just a good story on its own, like outside of the Orville.
episode with the really controlling government, right?
Yes.
Yeah, was that it?
Yes.
Yeah, and
That
they
was
were
a
like
very clever episode.
they were en route to, I think, a new planet, a new home, and then something happened that set the ship off course, and they've just been orbiting.
No, they'd
Or-
been
what?
adrift.
Adrift, yeah.
Well,
They-
or the thing shut down, or something happened.
They suffered a serious mechanical failure, and they ended up adrift. The command crew all passed away, and there was no one left to steer the ship.
Right.
And the citizens in the Biodome were unaware
Right.
that anything had
And
happened.
then years and years go by, and to the point where nobody even remembers what the purpose of them being on this ship was, and so they just are living their life and
I love
knew nothing else.
Special
love it.
guest star. Does anyone remember the cameo at the end?
Liam
Liam
Neeson.
Neeson was Dural. I liked that. I was really surprised.
I love
Also-
a cameo where the actor didn't have to be on set with anyone else at the same time.
I also loved Max Burkholder, who played in Parenthood. The son there who played Max Braverman on Parenthood. I've always liked that kid. He was
I know.
fun.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about now, but I didn't realize that was.
He was the son at the very very beginning. He took them. He knew the land, and he took them all over the Biodome. I guess kind of as a guide.
That Biodome stories
He
feels
was
like
there
it
at the
has...
end when Liam Neeson came on the screen. He was there in the end, and he said, "Dural." That was Max.
Yeah, I didn't realize that was him. But he looks older now, obviously. So.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, was the episode with, I keep forgetting the blue dude's name.
Derulio.
Derulio, thank you. Is
Yeah.
the episode where he comes on the ship, was that in season 1?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, but I gotta talk about that, because that was funny. That was super funny. Like, Ed, Seth MacFarlane in that episode just was so funny. I just thought it was so funny how he just is starting to, like, fall in love with him and, like, want to go. I just thought he just did such a good job. It was just so humorous. I thought it was so funny.
That was the most Family Guy delivery that we get from Seth MacFarlane throughout the episode.
Yeah. And like I think I remember like him, was he talking to Gordon about what he should wear or something too? Something went on like that. It just was so funny. And then he and Kelly are fighting over it. I love that episode.
About Rob Lowe. I never really liked Rob Lowe as a love interest to everybody, but I like him on this the firefighting
The Texas 911 or
Texas
something.
911, yeah. Austin. Yeah,
Austin.
I like him.
There's actually a lot of guest star appearances on this show, as well as all of the Star Trek actors that popped up and appeared. You get Charlize Theron, Jason Alexander, Patrick Warburton. I mean, some of them were in
Yes.
pretty heavy makeup, so you may not have even realized they were on there. But
Jason. Who did
Jason
play?
Alexander played.
The bartender. He kind of looks
Yeah.
like a giant chameleon.
He looks like a giant chameleon with a couple of rhino horns.
There's a species of chameleon with 2 horns.
Yeah, Olix was the character name.
One of the people I was like, he's just a server in a restaurant. It was Will Sasso from like Mad TV, but he was in a lot of makeup, and he really didn't have a substantial part. I think he was just a fun thing to do.
I really
Yeah.
enjoyed Patrick Warburton. He was the temporary security fill-in between Alara and whatever her name
He
is
had the
now.
big elephant nose.
He did.
Oh,
Came...
wrong.
Yeah.
He's just always kind of himself, and I love it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, he's
thought
got
it
the
was-
same delivery no matter what he does.
Yeah,
He's like a bro too.
you guys ever go to Disney and he's the Soren that ride? He's like a
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. What is he? The air?
He's the captain or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's
So
so
he
like,
to jump off the ride and be safe, but
yeah. And he's
He's
just
Lemony Snicket in Series of Unfortunate Events.
Yes.
I love that.
Which we've also covered and which Nick has moderated.
heck yeah.
I love that show. That was a great show too.
Well, you should all listen to those episodes.
I did listen to that episode.
Oh, great. I was also talking to the listener as well.
There was one other thing in a different episode that I really, really enjoyed, and that was in the Krill episode when Ed and Gordon go undercover on board the Krill vessel and end up decimating the entire crew in order for them to stop the weapon that the Krill was going to use on a Union colony. Ed has mercy on the kids who are on the ship, and the thing that got to me was the final scene with the one surviving Krill, where she asked, "Why would you save the kids?" And he went, "Well, they're just kids. I mean, we're not at war with them." And she responds, "But they're going to grow up, and they will be your enemy." It was one of those things that in a lot of the sci-fi movies and TV shows and whatnot, the bad guys are defeated, and the good guys, there's no further consequences necessarily. And in a lot of these things, you don't eliminate everybody essentially. But this is that kind of twist at the end took it in a bit of a different direction and make you think about, yeah, they're innocent kids, but consider what you just made of them.
I chose to see a little hope in that too, that not all the kids, that some of those kids that survived that, depending on how they learn about the situation, but they see the balance of being spared and what they were going to do to the other people. And I kind of feel like my optimism isn't just blind optimism, is that character, the adult, the teacher, is the one that towards the end of season 2 that there is, when they help Kalon, it looks like there is a possibility for peace between the Krill, and that we'll maybe see that in how, if there's more than one season. I don't see peace happening over the course of season 3, but
well, they're a little Romulan-esque in that way. Any allegiance is always going to be tenuous between the two species, and it would be interesting to see what happens with the kids, consequences and whatnot.
they singled one out too that they kind of built a little relationship with.
Right. It gives them at least a storyline kernel to go on for season 3 or beyond.
Or a spin-off show that features Ed Mercer as a Vineyard retired captain, and they bring back... never mind.
Sounds familiar. That might be a decent idea. Someone should run with that.
Yeah, right.
Okay, any last thoughts on season 1?
I loved that at the end of the episode where Ed and Kelly were in the zoo, that that Alara thought to trade them for reality television. I think that was hilarious.
Yes, I enjoyed that as well.
What a trade-off. That's a zoo for you.
Yeah.
You're talking to Nick, who works at a zoo.
I took that as more of an insult to reality TV.
Zoos are good things, though. I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
I do. Depends on the zoo, but yeah. Okay, if there's not any last thoughts on season 1, let's maybe take some time to see if there's any episodes we didn't already connect to and tie into in our discussion already. Season 2. I know it seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, we all kind of thought that it found its footing even more and enjoyed season 2 more than season 1. Is there anyone who felt the opposite?
No, I thought season 2 was better, even though season 1 was very good.
Well, certainly season 2 was much more nerve-wracking. I found myself stressed out after most episodes, but it was good.
Yeah, I feel like Seth MacFarlane was like, we're going to do some comedy, we're going to do some serious sci-fi, and kind of did some trade-off, and this was, he felt confident in going forward with those more serious...
There it is again, mix. Such a strong mix, I don't know where to put it in my brain.
Yeah, I think they established their premise, and when they find their footing and it was solid and they had a good foundation, they were able to do more intricate, deep storylines that were kind of more arc sort of centered things, and it ended with a really interesting what was that temporal something.
Yeah, alternate timeline kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm not great with temporal mechanics, as my husband will say. I get very confused when different things are happening.
So does Ed. He doesn't like to talk about time stuff because he would rather chew broken glass. He says that it's
that's a Janeway thing. She always got tripped up with that too. So there you go.
They all hate it. And I think Ed says it best when he does this because nobody understands it. That's why we're confused, because we don't know how it would work if it worked. Season 2, we find out, and I believe it's the first episode, Kelly is dating Cassius. I know Ed couldn't say it right, so now I don't know which way is the right way.
I think they said Cassius.
Cassius, yeah. He was like purposely saying it.
Yeah, he was purposely getting the name wrong.
Yeah.
I love that he did the little drive-by with the shuttle, and
That was
Kelly
funny.
was outraged, and the other guys were like, "Well, you've never done that?"
Yeah. That was funny.
Any other episodes that you guys wanted to single out?
Other than the two-part Kalon,
Yeah.
the Kalon War, which was just spectacularly set up, very well crafted, and again, the actual space battle when it took place was something that, I mean, I don't know if they just decided to throw all the money that they had left in the budget into that, because they did their homework, and it was something that you would expect to see on the big screen in terms of quality, in terms of camera angles, the way that they follow the progression through the entire thing, how they move the Orville in and out. Star Trek, as computer technology got better on the small screen, they were able to do a little bit more, but it still wasn't quite up to the same level that we were able to get in the Kalon conflict. That blew me away the first time I watched it.
That's
It was
why-
more comparable to like the J.J. Abrams new movie,
Yeah.
kind of stuff they could do.
What I
Yeah.
was gonna say is that it was actually more comparable to Star Wars. The Kalon
Yes.
battle was Return of the Jedi at the Death Star,
And that's my
Yeah.
favorite scene from all of the movies. That's my favorite one.
When Gordon was flying the Krill vessel, that was very X-Wing like.
And in the season finale for season 2, when they're running from the Kalon and hiding in all the different places, like there is the whole opening scene that's establishing the alternate timeline where Ed and Gordon are in the shuttle and they're diving through these icy chunks to try to escape. That's the asteroid field in The Empire Strikes Back. So
Yeah.
Yes, it
it
is.
does a very marked shift from a Star Trek homage to a Star Wars homage, which is why I felt like he was really going for all of it, not just Star Trek.
Yeah. The one episode, well, there's two of them, but one of the episodes that really stood out to me, other than the Kalon one and then the last two, was the one where they had the Mocklin come in, and it turned out that he was attracted to females. And that was a very interesting episode for me. And another episode that I was pretty unhappy with how it ended. Like, I honestly wanted him to stow away on the ship. Like, I liked him, and I wanted him and, was it Talia? What's her name? Or no, what's her name? The other Selene. I always forget her name.
I know we've said it right for a while. It's Tala.
Talea and Tala. Yeah, I liked him. I liked Tala and him. Like, I don't know. I wish he would have been able to stay on the ship. And it was really sad that he got sentenced. But I thought that was a really great episode because, you know, for them, the minority is heterosexual. And so it was kind of, you know, showing the discrimination there between someone who has a different sexuality. So kind of like what we go through these days.
That one actually reminded me of the episode that we just talked about in the Star Trek 50 Plus series with the androgynous species. I forget.
Yes, I was just going to bring that up. That the second I watched that, I went, oh my gosh, this is the episode when Riker falls for a member of an androgynous race who has an attraction.
Right.
That one I found an absolute parallel to.
But in this case, it's connected to a species that we already know and that it fits in with. And I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility with what's happening that we will find out what happened to that character, or maybe even see that character come back. I at least hope we do.
Yes, it's a very, again, another one of those little interesting storylines that could be pursued further by the series. They've done a great job of leaving these little tiny loose threads throughout where they could come back and pick it up. It's not, there are very few just one-off episodes here where there's nothing, the story's over, we're not going to come back and revisit this. A lot of the Orville they can come back and kind of pick at a little bit more.
But don't have to. They're self-contained.
Yeah.
It's always the weird combo of, it might be one of the best combinations of standalone episodes and story arcs. Like, usually it's like a very clear split when you have an arc, and when it's just, this feels natural and just like this is their lives. Something that I think like part of Seasons of Discovery is struggling with, and they go like too much into the story arc. This is a nice blend of that. One of the episodes I really enjoyed, they made First Contact. I love how excited they were about making First Contact. And I love that Bortus wants nothing to do with sharing a birthday party with Kelly.
Yeah.
I thought that one was really interesting because they used astrological signs, astrology, and make the connection that really so many cultures have throughout time. It just happens to have stuck with this one. But then it ended up feeling a lot like the Hunger Games when they went to the prison camp. So
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah,
I did appreciate in that episode too how it didn't work out for the best. Where they basically left him alone and went, well, we'll try again at some point.
Yeah,
maybe we'll have better luck next time.
Yeah, I was all for them not like being a part of the Union after that, unless anyone has something else to say. But I also want to make a comment on the episode where that one guy who was a friend of Gordon's comes in with that woman. They're fleeing the Krill. They were Krill prisoners. That was an interesting episode, but I mostly have to laugh because we never find out what happened to that woman. They lock her in that room, and so it's like, is she still on the ship trapped in that room? So I just always have to laugh about that because nothing ever gets explained about, like, did they send her away? Is she still trapped in that room?
So he was played by Mackenzie Aston, who I think he's related to Sean, but he's been doing some stuff all along throughout the decades. And then was the woman that was his daughter, in quotes, Peyton List again? It looked like Peyton List. It may not have been her, though. If it was Peyton List, I don't like her. But the character...
We're not a fan of Peyton List.
No, we don't like her. She's not...
I don't know who that is. Should I know who that is?
She is on Star Trek Picard. She is the Romulan. She's embedded in Starfleet Command.
Yeah,
The
okay.
angry one? She's the angry
sister.
one that can math.
Yeah, she's angry. The sister.
Yeah.
I gotcha. She's on the where they're doing the Borg stuff. She's there.
No, she's on Earth. She wears a yellow tunic. And I'm pretty sure she's Romulan. I don't remember.
I don't remember her, but I got to rewatch, I guess.
Yeah, it's been a while. That was before the times. So I don't remember. I have to go back and rewatch the first season of Picard.
I also wasn't sure what episode of Orville we were talking about.
It's
The one where it's Gordon's old friend is escaping from a Krill prison camp.
That's right.
With his daughter, who's not really his daughter. Because his daughter
she's a
died.
secret weapon, or he's going to use her as that.
With blood that can apparently blow up whole ships.
Yeah.
Very, very volatile blood that when it mixes with oxygen
Honestly,
outside of the body is very, very volatile.
Yeah. There was kind of a plot twist there for me because when Gordon goes off to like do it with him, I thought he like was literally rebelling against Ed, and then it turns out it was all a plan. And like when he shoots Talia, like I thought but it was all a setup. I wasn't expecting that, so that...
I didn't read it as he was rebelling against Ed as much as he felt he owed his friend. And so,
True.
and that was all based on the lie that he was telling him. Because I just watched this episode because today he basically tells his friend, "You son of a bitch, you lied to me," before he pulls a phaser on him.
Yeah,
So.
That's a much better way to put it. I didn't word it right, but that's
all right.
That's a great way to put it.
Cool. What else you got, Nick?
We've really covered so much. This was a really fun conversation, and I want to be thorough here. this has kind of come up, but anything more to add to how the Orville compares to other sci-fi shows or genres, not just shows, I guess, movies? And we covered it a lot with Star Trek and Star Wars already.
It's so easy to compare this one. Unlike some shows we cover that really are unique in ways, this one has a uniqueness to it, but it has a quality of uniqueness, but it's derived by the fact that it's an homage. And so the point you made earlier when you said the single mom is the doctor and the pilot becoming the engineer, that was also the thing that was kind of gave me pause when I was watching the first. I know this is backtracking a little. gave me pause watching the first season, because I thought, well, if they really wanted to not draw the comparison so much, they wouldn't have done that.
Especially next gen. I feel like it's not just Star Trek is so huge that if there's elements from other ones, but it was 2 cast members. but again, there is their own twist, and when you start watching it, you don't know how they're gonna fare. But her deciding to be a single mom is kind of a big difference than the dad dying, and exploring that.
That's true.
So there was payoff. You don't know that. I mean, even the whole first season for that, you don't know it. To go back to, because I don't think we really talked about Lamar at all.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
I haven't even mentioned him. Wow.
He's not, I don't think he's utilized to his full potential.
Agreed.
Which is part of the storyline, and I don't know what was leading the other thing. Oh, we're not utilizing him enough, let's move this forward. Or the show has shown itself to be able to seed something like that he is has the secret where he doesn't want the problems, he just wants to get through his job and his day-to-day. So I do think it's easy to forget about him, because it isn't until season 2 that we start to see that growth and development that the other characters show.
But I also do think we missed something with him when they move him to engineering, because he was kind of Gordon's buddy cop up front on the bridge.
Yeah.
And then when he moved to engineering, he's still funny, and he's got some good exchanges with Yaphet or whatever, but it's not quite the same, and they have to sort of maneuver those two back together again just to get some of those exchanges. So I wish they'd use him more, because I'm enjoying the guy who plays him, and I like the character.
Even though we knew who the engineer was before, and he was in a couple episodes, you never saw him at the station on the bridge next to Isaac, but Lamar is there from time to time. So
he clearly does the job better.
Yeah.
Now, Lamar was super big back in the first season in that one episode where they went to the planet that was pretty much an exact copy of Earth, just with certain things different, where they were obsessed with doing everything by social media, and the people got to rule everything. There was no government. So he was really big, because he was the whole reason. he humped the statue.
Yeah.
And
It was deep.
That was a good episode, too.
yeah, that was a good episode. Yeah. So he was super big in that one, but yeah, he's not as big in a lot of the others.
He's saying humping the statue reminded me of one of my favorite exchanges. Now I'm going to say her name wrong, but the character, the new Zelayan.
Tala.
Yeah, at one point she's like, "This got to be the craziest thing that's happened on the ship," and they're just like, almost died for humping a statue. Porn almost destroyed the ship.
Yeah.
Very casually, they just list the things that, the show is self-aware. They know what they're doing, and
They're self-aware with the standard Seth MacFarlane cadence, where it's and then da.
Yeah.
in my experience with Seth MacFarlane shows, there are things that are very Kermit the Frog comes up in Family Guy all the time. He loves
Rightfully so.
But it was one of his first impressions, and it helped him get over his stutter.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. But so when singing in the rain becomes a component of the show, part of my head is Seth MacFarlane loves singing in the rain. But the payoff with Isaac making it rain on the bridge and that moment,
sweet.
I love that. I love that moment too.
I also love singing. I love the whole episode actually. We've already talked about it, but with Claire and Isaac on the date and working their way through their challenges. But that moment was so good, so sweet. Oh, can I take a moment now to talk about my complicated feelings for Seth MacFarlane? Now, I like him. I wouldn't have ascribed hearts to him in the past. But but now
He does Stephen Amell quotient of hot.
No, he doesn't come close to Steven or David Tennant or John Krasinski or Jensen Ackles. Everyone forgets Jensen, okay, but that's all right.
Are you doodling images of Seth MacFarlane doing the fish ladder?
The salmon ladder, actually.
Yeah, it's salmon
ladder.
ladder, and he's
fish ladder.
Let's see what happens if he takes off his shirt, Nick. Number one.
Yeah.
Okay. Number two, though, he handles the romance pretty well as the show goes on, and that left me feeling complicated. That's all I have to say.
Well, on that note, my roundup questions is about Seth MacFarlane, who we've talked about. He's created Family Guy, American Dad, The Cleveland Show. Have any of you really watched those shows, or does the Orville make you want to try to watch those shows or give them a chance?
I've watched bits of a couple of them, but it's not something I watch religiously.
They were the reason I watched this show, other than the sci-fi Star Trek. It basically was the combination of the premise and Seth MacFarlane.
Yeah, they were the reason for me too. I've watched a lot of Family Guy. Haven't watched quite as much American Dad, and I've seen Ted and everything. So yeah.
Yeah, I watched a bunch. I've seen all of the animated stuff that he did, but to be perfectly honest, I would have probably had a lot more pause if he had never made the Family Guy Star Wars trilogy. Because that one was handled with care as well. He spoofed it, clearly. That's another one of those homages where he proved he could handle the material. So without that, I don't know if I would have been interested in watching the Orville, just because I'd be afraid that he was going to just drop it and break it all over the floor. But because the Star Trek trilogy went so well for him, I went, I'll give this a chance. This could be very good.
Yeah, this proved that Seth MacFarlane's a very talented man. Like, the fact that he could do this, it just...
Listen to some of his jazz albums. The guy can sing, too.
He sounds like Frank Sinatra.
Yeah,
I have
Frank Sinatra feel to him.
Yeah.
I have some of his jazz albums. Oh, yeah.
He's really good.
And fun fact about that, for his very first album, he actually got Sinatra's microphone from the Smithsonian and recorded using that.
Oh, sweet.
Wow. Frank Sinatra Jr. plays himself on Family Guy in a couple episodes.
Yep.
And if you've seen the movie Sing, which tends to be playing on in places you take children, Seth MacFarlane is basically playing Frank Sinatra as a mouse.
I also want to highly recommend the Star Wars parody with Family Guy. My favorite chapter is something dark side.
Yeah.
I think another key component with that and his Star Trek references is that he also proves that while he's fans of these things, he's not like blind to them thinking they're perfect. And I think that helps with him creating this, that it isn't just this is the best thing that's ever made and nothing is wrong with it. He sees the flaws in either writing or the technology of the time, and he knows how to deal with them comedically.
I'll have to go watch the Star Wars episode, because I know of American Dad and that kind of stuff and his animated series, but the Orville is the first one I've watched of his extensively.
Stewie is Darth Vader. That's all you need to know.
I will also say, as someone, please don't hurt me, isn't a big Star Wars fans, those Family Guy Star Wars episodes are really well. You don't need to, you should be aware of Star Wars.
Thanks, Nick.
Storyline, and it is funny, and you'll get the cultural references. So I even recommend those as well.
I just want to mention that we have felt some reverberating flavors from our Star Trek versus Star Wars appearance at the Grand Rapids Comic-Con, when you were on the Star Trek side and Spencer was on the Star Wars side, because you've each taken pot shots at the other, and I'm over here like, they're both good.
Well, that's where we disagree.
Ooh!
That's where I'm right. Nick is wrong. It's all good.
I'm the moderator.
It's Nick, so there.
What did you say, Sarah?
She just woke up from a nap.
No, listening, but I'm not. I already covered this question. I don't like any of those cartoons because I don't really generally enjoy watching cartoons, and I don't like rude babies. And so it's just not funny to me how rude he is, truthfully.
Not as rude as Big Mouth, I'll tell you that.
I don't think that is, and I didn't see baby. I just things with babies that are sketchy. But I would, if he did more human things. I haven't seen that Ted thing Is that just a rude teddy bear? I mean,
It's a very rude teddy bear.
He did also do A Million Ways to Die in the West.
Oh yeah.
Some of that was really funny. Some of it was just really stupid.
I'll agree with that. Ted was pretty good. Ted was pretty funny.
See that?
I said Charlize Theron was in A Million Ways to Die, right?
Yep.
Oh,
And
there's that.
I think Gilbert Gottfried played Abraham Lincoln, right?
Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness, you kidding me?
It's crazy.
What a shame. poor Abraham.
Let's wrap this up. Would you guys recommend this show to others?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes.
Very much.
I would. I think it's got a broad appeal. Even if you don't love what it's homaging, like Spencer doesn't love Star Trek, but he likes this show because of the Seth MacFarlane piece. And then even if you don't like Seth MacFarlane, there's enough of the sci-fi homaging that you can kind of get around the humor if you want.
Homage.
And Jared's favorite word, homage. But I haven't actually actively recommended it yet, but maybe we should talk to the Star Trek panel.
We should.
We're mostly here.
We're missing 2, but that's okay.
50% is a majority.
Okay, math teacher.
I don't actually teach any math right now. It's weird. But
Okay.
all right.
You did.
I do usually. I just don't right now. I would not recommend this show because I don't know who I would recommend it to.
Shocking.
People don't ask me for recommendations that much, I guess. So I would, if I knew they liked this kind of thing, maybe, but I don't know.
You're clearly not on Facebook that much.
I am on Facebook a lot.
Oh, really? I thought people asked those kind of questions on Facebook all the time. What do you
Well,
recommend?
I get, usually like plumbers and stuff, I think. But
You know the crack.
Oh my goodness.
What show would you watch? I would recommend this plumber. What?
What?
Sounds like a Facebook algorithm to me.
Yeah, really.
Anyway, I do think I
we
would
need to
forget
fact
to
check
recommend this show because it's been a big chunk off the air. Technically, we're waiting for season 3. I even hesitate to say where they are in that just because I'm not 100% sure where they left off.
They're in production right now.
They did start production.
They did start it up. They were in delay for quite a long time because there were 2 complications, one being the pandemic, one being that they were making the jump to Hulu, and I believe the story around that was Seth was up against the wire and Fox was doing a lot of what Fox does, which is kind of mother the timeline a little bit, and he was trying to make an argument for some sort of adjustment, and they made season 2 work, but then I think when Disney acquired Fox properties and Hulu, it just was kind of a natural thought that it moves to the streaming service, and also he's going to be able to untighten some of the, like he's going to be able, if you've watched the Family Guy Star Wars, there's like full-on profanity in there. I think you're going to probably be seeing a little bit more of that in the transition to Hulu. I think that's kind of where they're going a little bit.
No, we don't get Hulu in Canada. So unless I used a VPN, which I used to, but I don't currently. But I would like to figure out where I'm going to be able to watch that.
Well, I will keep
in
an eye
Canada.
on it because they've got to have some sort of Canada distribution, and I'll keep an eye on it for you. But
I
Hulu
saw
is gonna be
something.
home.
I can't remember if this was for specifically Hulu shows, but Disney Plus is, if you have
They have
Disney
a
Plus,
streaming portion.
there's
Yes, there's the last one, Smart Switch or some Switch or Smart something.
yeah, I can't remember what it's called, but it's like they have Disney, Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, and then there's going to be this other thing for people for areas that don't get Hulu or something. So I think that was me looking this up saying that that's what they were working out. But I didn't know if that covered Canada. So just get Disney Plus. They own everything.
But it's in production,
Disney Plus will
and
have-
I think they're looking at a 2022 release.
Oh my goodness, it's so far away.
Yeah.
It's like it's hard to put it back together when it's been so long.
Jared, I just Googled that, and apparently City TV in Canada is planning on continuing to air the Orville.
Good. City TV. Thank you.
We're so international.
We like to help.
You guys all kind of just answered this, but are you going to keep watching? You could all
Yep.
just say yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
And really, this is the last question. Any other elements? This is your last time to say anything about season 1 or 2, because we will put on the shock collars when we record season 3. You can only talk about
Where did the egg come from Bordis? Where did it come from?
I don't want to know. No.
The only time I thought that was when he watched the birth happen in that one episode, and he was like, "An egg is easier," and I wanted to be like, "How?
What?
Easier?"
Well, this requires us to have more information about how Mocklins conduct the sexual act, and I don't know that we want that information. I think it's just enough to know they have it.
Maybe it comes out of his ear.
Maybe.
Which makes them Ferengi, not Klingons.
Yeah.
Wow.
This just got weird.
Yeah. That's got weird.
Better than his bum. Gee.
What is it?
Well-
Short story, too late.
Okay, if there's anything else, eggs aside,
Well,
that you want to mention.
There was one thing. I've mentioned it a couple times, but an element that I'd love to mention is, again, the music. In so much of TV these days, the composer's job is really just playing tones, just something to move the scene along. In fact, in the movie Forgetting Sarah Marshall, where Jason Segel's character is one of those TV composers, he laments that fact. The Orville has a full orchestral score. It's composed every episode. It's got recognizable themes, and it's something that adds to all of the different thematic elements that happen in the show. And as a musician, I appreciate that so much, and as a good storyteller. I mean, anybody who's ever tried to watch anything on YouTube for like scenes from Star Wars where music's taken out, there's a gigantic element that's missing. And I think the Orville would be the exact same way, or it wouldn't quite be the exact same if you didn't have that rich orchestral score going on underneath it. I think it really adds a very important, understated element to the entire show.
I fully agree with you on that. And a prime example of how important music is to making any visual entertainment more poignant is the movie Jaws. Without the element that they added for the shark when the shark is about to appear, that movie's a B-roll. You're laughing at it. By adding music in the way that they do, it really does enhance what we're seeing.
And I just want to give a shout out to John Williams, since you mentioned Jaws, who's like the best at it. But John Debney, ever. But John Debney is very much in his own right an outstanding orchestral composer, does a lot of soundtracking, and recognized his sort of signature style right away in the theme song. Totally agree with Ryan. I mean, it is cinematic. It becomes some cinematic, not only in terms of the visual effects, but also just the use of music. And also the popular music. I just love the little pops of things they include all throughout. It's so much fun.
I would have to assume that must have been Seth MacFarlane, and he must have had to fight for that, because if I'm remembering right, there was a point in time where it was like it was official that The Simpsons was the last and only show to use a full orchestra for their television show. It was like Star Trek did, and there was no Star Trek on the air, and it just was The Simpsons. And I'm wondering if any other shows have kind of started coming back to that, or if this was it.
Yeah, that it is. To hire a whole orchestra is going to be expensive. But to that end, too, The Orville is also the only TV show that I can think of recently that's actually released soundtrack albums. You can buy the music for each of the 2 seasons on separate albums.
Time to look on Spotify.
Yeah.
Ryan, I agree with you. I agree with you totally, but I think Fred Rogers might disagree with you a little bit. You know, the little trolley noises and the piano little ditties.
Aww.
Well, that's a part of everybody's childhood, but it's been a while since they've cut that album.
I'm just messing
No,
up.
it lives on in Daniel Tiger. Trust me, you get it.
Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood. The spin-off of Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay, with that note, that was an awesome thing to circle back on and really dive into. Thank you, Brian. It sounds like we're all done talking about the Orville for now, so with that, I'd like to thank Spencer, Jared, Ryan, Alex, Sarah, and Kylie for joining us in this discussion of Seasons 1 and 2 of the Orville. And that's all I have to say about it.
And
Now it's Kylie's turn to talk.
And thanks, Nick, for moderating Seasons 1 and 2 of the Orville with all the passion that a nerd can bring. And because we've talked about the first 2 seasons of the Orville, it's time to roll the credits. Couch Potatoes Unite! Was produced by Back Pocket Productions, run by yours truly, the Chief Couch Potato, which is really another way of saying executively produced by me, Kylie Piette. My associate producers are Krista Pennington and Selene Rezmer. I edit this podcast, and our logo is by Rebecca Wallace. Our marketing graphic artist is Krista. Our theme song was written by Sarah Milbratz and sung by Sarah, Amy McDaniel, and Kels Rezmer. Kels played the keyboard, Ian McDonough played the bass, Christian Somerville played the guitar, and the whole shebang was engineered by Kyle Aspinall and Christian. We hail from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Please, if you like what you hear, take the time to rate us, give us stars, provide comments, or review us wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, CastBox, and Amazon are just a few of the places you can find us, but we're also on YouTube. We have our website, and we're now on Patreon at patreon.com/CouchPotatoesUnite. If you really love us, pledge your support by becoming one of our United Couch Potatoes as we grow our little sofa-populated corner of the world. Otherwise, feel free to tell us how we're doing, what we should add, subtract, keep, or toss. You know how it goes. And if you have suggestions for shows we might consider, contact us at our website where we have a guest book, by email at couchpotatoesunitepodcast@gmail.com, our Facebook, our Twitter at CPU Podcast, our Instagram at Couch Potatoes Unite, our Patreon, or wherever you get your podcasts. Though, of course, we add new and old shows to chat about around the water cooler all the time, and always have new episodes coming down the pipe. Just listen to our intros. If you miss old episodes or want to know in general what shows we cover, just search for us. Find us wherever you do searchable things on the internet. Don't forget that exclamation point, or contact us via our website, our email, our social media accounts, and our Patreon to stay up on all the new events and episodes by our humble little podcast, Couch Potatoes Unite! Exclamation point. Until the next time, all available seasons of The Orville are, as we said, available to stream on Hulu. In the meantime, our Orville panel will next reconvene sometime following the release of the third season or its finale, depending upon how Hulu meets out those episodes. And as we alluded to earlier, we may not be seeing that till 2022, so it'll be a wait, but you can tide yourself over in the meantime with episodes on Hulu, and this episode on CPU. As always, keep a weathered eye to Couch Potatoes Unite for all the details, but in the meantime, and until next time, until next episode, new episodes are published every Wednesday. Keep listening, keep watching, stay tuned!
Goodbye!
Bye, everybody!
Bye.